Namaste. Amen, and blessed be. If you've been around social justice movements or young people in the past couple of years, you've probably heard the phrase "get woke" or "stay woke." The phrase is most closely related to the Black Lives Matter movement. It refers to gaining personal insight into the systems of oppression that shape our society. Getting woke means noticing that intricate system that maintains power for the elite while exploiting and marginalizing others. As you probably figured, getting woke refers to waking up to these moments of justice. A lot of us have experienced a jarring awakening to the frequency and severity of police violence in the last few years. More recently, I think, American men have woken up to the sexual violence and discrimination that the Me Too movement has skillfully shown a light on. Many of us, perhaps most of us, had been woken up to various issues in life. This happens at different moments in different ways. For me, the most impactful moment of getting woke was early in college. I was doing a lot of LGBT activism on campus, and I had the great opportunity to attend a week-long training that was hosted by the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force. The training itself was kind of helpful. I still use some of those tools today, but more impactful than the training itself was meeting 15 other young activists from across the country. These folks were Black, white, Asian, Latinx, South Asian activists. A few of these peers were the first transgendered people that I came to know and to care about deeply. And we came from a wide range of economic backgrounds. Some of us were greatly privileged. Some of us lived in government housing projects. At least one of us was HIV positive. Because of our shared passion for justice and the time we spent together, we quickly became friends. We were all in our late teens and early 20s, and we were ready to change the world. And for me, for the first time, I found myself on a team with people that were really different from myself. Through getting to know them and their experience better, my commitment to activism became interwoven with struggles for racial justice issues and access to health care. I've had a handful of experiences in life that opened my eyes to the interdependent web that we're a part of and the beauty of each person's unique journey. This one particular moment cracked something open that I don't think could ever be covered over again. I'm not always as woke as I was in that workshop, or even for the couple of years afterwards. But that experience changed something in me. I'm not alone in this, of course. Most of the people in this room have had experiences of awakening to justice in the world. A lot of us participated in the Race and Racism workshop that was held for Tapestry. It was an experience of awakening for a lot of people. And it seems that every other month that I hang out with you all, I hear of some new story of your activist past. I've heard of protesting the Vietnam War and sitting in for racial justice and even following Mahatma Gandhi's resistance movement in India. You have plenty of awakenings of your own. The second phrase that I mentioned earlier from the Black Lives Movement was "stay woke." This phrase in particular is what I've been chewing on this week. Stay woke is a plea for those who have had a moment of political awakening to not slip back into complacency. And I wonder, if you have to work to stay woke, if you have to try to remember that your neighbors are in trouble, has transformation occurred in your life? Or have you had a change of heart and mind for the moment? You see, there's a difference between an idea in your mind and a transformation in your life. A change in your mind I think of as a temporary situation. It may be significant, but we can always revert to previous ways of thinking. Transformation, on the other hand, is a more permanent change, a journey on which there is no turning back. The simplest analogy I could think of comes through chemistry. We might think of a change of mind as a change in the state of matter. We all know that water can easily take the form of a solid, a liquid, or a gas. And what appears to be a dramatic change between those states can quickly be reversed, returning to the original characteristics. Transformation, though, we might think of as a permanent change, a full-fledged chemical reaction. Think of rusting, burning, photosynthesis, respiration, digestion. At the end of the process, those materials are still existing, but returning to the original state is unlikely. Of course, every metaphor has its limits. We're people, not chemicals. How do we recognize a transformation in our full selves rather than a change of idea? I suggest that the best indication that transformation has occurred is that when changes take place beyond our mind and our heart. Transformation has occurred when our physical lives change as well. What I'm getting at today, and what I most want to invite you to think about, is identifying real transformation in our lives beyond ideas. And this isn't just around justice issues. You see, sometimes we believe we've transformed when really we haven't, because holding an idea feels good, and there's nothing wrong with that. We convince ourselves, though, that holding on to it is a fundamental change. Sometimes we believe we've transformed when really we haven't. The opposite is also true, though. Sometimes we don't admit that we have transformed when we have. Life offers some devastating blows that fundamentally change us. Sometimes the relentless daily challenges reshape us into people we would not have recognized 20 years ago. I challenge us, including myself, to take account of the ways that we have been transformed, that we would not have chosen, the transformations that we would rather ignore. Remember, a change of mind is like the changing of the state of water. Transformation is a full-fledged chemical reaction where going back is no longer an option. Transformation in our own lives is not so much about what we think in our heads, it's more about what we say and what we do in our daily lives. Going back to the example of awakening around justice issues, A transformation would probably look like substantial change in our social network and the way we spend our resources. Transformation would look like having built really meaningful relationships with people that are different from ourselves. Relationships that couldn't easily be severed. It might look like moving to live in an area of significant diversity or investing in businesses owned by people of color. It might look like moving your career toward liberation of marginalized people. Remember, transformation means no longer having to try to stay woke, because falling asleep isn't an option. This is your new life. It is a very high bar. It's not for everyone. In fact, very few people will go through that type of transformation in their life. But it's important to recognize the difference between transformation and a change of mind. Because until our lives are transformed, staying woke will always take some work. And of course, awakenings don't just happen around justice movements. Transformation and change of heart also occur in our spiritual lives. Some faith traditions call this a moment, a conversion experience. A moment of realization that inspires someone to claim a totally different faith tradition. On the path to ministry, a lot of people talk about a call experience, even among our Unitarian Universalist colleagues. Now, traditionally, a call is a moment when God calls an individual to be a leader. The Bible is full of these stories. We're probably most familiar of Moses and the burning bush, when God told him that he would be a leader, whether he wanted to or not, his life would transform. Of course, spiritual moments aren't always so dramatic, thank goodness. A lot of my colleagues came to a clear moment when they just knew that they were meant to dramatically change their lives to become faith leaders. It didn't involve burning bushes. It was just a moment of knowing deeply that something was meant to change. These moments don't just happen to clergy. Many of the members of our congregation talk about moments of spiritual awakening. Some have encountered God. And that experience involves 1,000 different sensations and emotions. Some people have come to the difficult decision that there is no God. And many people, many of you, have come to the tough realization that the God you thought you knew is way more complicated than anyone told you. For some, that shift is a simple change of mind. It doesn't have a huge impact on day-to-day life. But for others, it means walking away from a faith tradition of your roots. Perhaps evolving family relationships. Spiritual challenges, even without God confronting us through burning bushes, can have real consequences in our lives. And living your faith means increased commitment to care for our neighbors or care for the earth. Transformation takes real change. Not all moments of spiritual connection lead to transformation. Most of them are just inspiring moments, feeling a sense of love and connection. Those moments touch us and change our hearts and minds for a while, and that's good. Not every worthwhile change needs to be a complete overhaul. Waking up even for a moment a day is a beautiful thing. Maybe the clearest marker, I think, for transformation is crossing a point of no return. I had heard this phrase but wasn't sure exactly what it referred to. The definition came up from aviation. When flying a plane, the point of no return is the point in a flight at which the aircraft will no longer have enough fuel to return to the starting point. It becomes literally impossible to return to where you started from. Whether it's a transformation we choose or one that is thrust upon us, there's a point at which we cannot undo the change. There's no reversing the rust, no unburning the fuel. And when we've undergone a life transformation, there's no going back to a former self. This may be the scariest thing to realize about transformation. Because not all of them are good, as I said earlier. The challenges of life alter us, sometimes in sudden ways, sometimes in a slow wearing down. When these transformations occur, it's helpful to recognize the passing of a point of no return. It's helpful to recognize that going back to the way things were is a waste of effort. Instead, we would do better to continue on our journey to a better place. One of the pieces of popular theology that makes me cringe every time I hear it is this idea that God doesn't give us more than we can handle. Or the more secular version that which doesn't kill us only makes us stronger. That is a lie. Anyone who has suffered a devastating loss can tell you, sometimes life events leave you weaker, more fragile, uncertain. Those who have survived a loss and thrived through it will tell you that returning to where you started from is a lost cause. In this journey, the only way out is through. We will never physically be our younger selves. We will never bring the dead back to life. We cannot undo what has been done, but we can celebrate those good pieces of the past and move on to a different future, accepting the transformation that is inevitable so that we might gain some control of the direction of this journey. This week I came to a much more challenging picture of transformation than I had planned for. Transformation isn't just a feel-good moment, it's a serious life change, and sometimes it results in pain, and sometimes it is glorious. On a great, rare occasion in life, we get the chance to shed an outdated version of ourselves, to sprout wings and fly into a different future. Just like a pilot taking off on a long journey, often these big life transformations cross a point of no return. We won't be able to fly back to the safety of our past. The only way is forward, and the destination is still not completely clear. That's faith. Stepping forward in life, leaping without the certainty of exactly where you will land. And if you find yourself on the precipice, know that you have a community of folks here rooting for you. If you're scared, take courage in the adventurous journeys that these good folks have had. If you don't, Know these journeys, get to know them, because this room is full of them. And have some faith in yourself and in this amazing world that we are blessed to be a part of, because there are wonderful things out there. Adventures to be had, new futures to be claimed. It's scary stuff, but sometimes you just have to do what you know you're meant to. Amen.